Good morning, Tampa Bay. What is going on? I hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. Channelside in the morning, live from the Channelside Sports Network. Man, we finally had some Bucks football, some meaningful. I guess it depends on your views of preseason football, if it was technically meaningful football to you. However, as a fan, as a host of this morning show, it was meaningful football to me. And that's really that's all you can ask for. You know, that's Buck football is back, baby. We're gonna dissect it. Hopefully we get some comments from you guys. Would love to hear your thoughts on some of the standouts, some of the players that could use improvement. We've got some PFF grades to talk about, obviously some stats. It is an overreaction Monday. I will preface it by saying this. Kyle Trask fans, pump the brakes. I know it's an overreaction Monday, but it was a preseason game. And it was the first preseason game of the season. Kyle Trask looked good. And we'll leave it at that for now. We're also going to talk about the Rays, man. The Rays looked damn good. The Rays looked damn good yesterday. This is a season. Look, this is the momentum you need. We gave them exactly what you need, right? I gave them the 2-week notice. I said, you need to win these next 14 games. They won the series. Now they go against the Yankees tonight. We're going to talk about that to wrap up our show. James in the chat's already jumping on me, and this is exactly why. James, I didn't want to start by talking about Kyle Trask this way. I gave Kyle Trask a B-. I gave Kyle Trask a B- in the first preseason game. And so many fans are still jumping on me for giving him a B-. A B- is a good grade, guys. I don't know what your parents had as expectations for grades in schools. I don't know what some of you have. If your parents, I don't know what some of your expectations are for your children. And I'm not here to tell you how to parent your children, but a B is a good grade. A B is a good grade. The problem that I have is that Kyle Trask fans are saying, see, I told you he's the starting quarterback of the future. This is it. This is why we need to pump the brakes on Kyle Trask. We need to pump the brakes on Kyle Trask because he has performed C- football in training camp thus far with his own first team starters in rotation, with the opposing team's with his own teammates' first string defense. Sorry, I'm losing my word. I'm getting all caught up and wrapped up in this. This is the issue with Kyle Trask fans. Is I give him a B-. People are still jumping on me for it. And I'm having an issue with where you guys are having this problem, right? Because this is where this weird fan base of Kyle Trask fan, and I get it. I get it. You're a Gators fan. You're looking at it through rose-colored glasses, and I totally understand where you're coming from if you're a Gator fan. And I want him to pan out. I've said this many times. I want Kyle Trask to pan out for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I want him to be the quarterback of the future for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because he's already here. I don't care who the quarterback is that is supposed to be the future. I don't care who it is. I want Kyle Trask to pan out because that means that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after Tom Brady don't have to look for their next quarterback and they can focus on other issues. Here's the thing with Kyle Trask fans is you're going to force him into a situation that he's not ready for, a la Tim Tebow. And I can only hope that if the Buccaneers coaching staff and front office does not think that he's ready, that they don't force him into the situation. That's where this fan base is trying to trend to is, oh my God, Kyle Trask, quarterback of the future. He was playing against third stringers. Now he looked good. Somebody told me that we need to expect the same results if Kyle Trask is playing against first stringers. That's not how it works. That's not how that works. Kyle Trask has played against his own first string defense and has not looked good. There is a vast difference in talent level from the first string to the third string. He did play against second stringers, and like I said, Kyle Trask looked good. Finished 25 of 33, 258 yards, a touchdown, an interception. That the interception was not on Kyle Trask. Like let's make sure that we recognize that was a fluky interception. Rachaad White had it, kind of dropped it, but didn't drop it, got caught in his legs, and then it was picked off because the ball never hit the ground. That's not on Kyle Trask. The fumble's on Kyle Trask. Now, the offensive line didn't help him, but the fumble is still on him because he could have just went down. He didn't go down. He lost the ball. It happens. It happens to every quarterback. But that's still a turnover. That's still a ding, right? My biggest gaffe that Kyle Trask had was that 10-yard sack late in the fourth quarter on the 7-step drop back. You're in a position right there where you cannot take a sack. And it's not like they were coming from the blind side either. They were coming directly at him and he never saw it. That was the only gaffe that I noticed with Kyle Trask. Other than that, Kyle Trask looked very poised. Kyle Trask's decision-making was good. 25 of 33 is not bad, and he had a drop. Kyle Trask looked like a good backup quarterback. And that's all you can ask for at this time because you're not going to get a starting quarterback you're not going to figure out. You're not like the Pittsburgh Steelers in the offseason going, okay, well, we need to use the preseason to figure out who our starting quarterback is going to be. Tony in the chat says he didn't climb the pocket, and you're right. It's, this is not a situation of finding out who's going to start at quarterback for the Buccaneers this season. You already know who's going to start at quarterback. It's Tom Brady. Like Tom Brady's starting at quarterback, period. We need to figure out what's going to happen. So, as I've said all last week and all the week before, Kyle Trask needs to play every single snap. Don't even put Blaine Gabbert in there for a series anymore. Blaine Gabbert went, 5 of 5 for 40 yards? Cool. Blaine Gabbert played great. We don't need Blaine Gabbert anymore. We already know that Blaine Gabbert is not going to be the starter next year. We don't know if Kyle Trask is going to be or not going to be the starting quarterback for the Buccaneers next year. That's why this preseason is so important for him. And James in the chat is definitely correct. The offensive line didn't do him any help. They didn't help him. They didn't. He was hurried 14 times. Hainsey struggled. Stinney struggled. Gadecki struggled. Nick Leffert got a 14.7 pass blocking grade. 14.7 out of 100. They didn't help him, and he still looked good. This is where we need to say, okay, look, he looked good in the preseason, but we're like throwing a parade for the guy for looking good in the preseason. We got to be more realistic, guys. As Bucks fans, yeah, we want to see improvement. But as a realistic fan, you don't just throw a parade for a guy and say, "Hey, this is our starting quarterback. Look at how good he looked against backups." He looked good largely in part against guys that are not going to play a snap this season barring injury. That's the realistic aspect of how Kyle Trask looked. And but he looked good against those guys. So what is wrong with saying, "Hey, he had a B minus grade. There are a couple things I'd like to see him clean up, but largely he looked good." I want to see Kyle Trask put together the remainder of training camp. I want to see him put together a solid effort. I want to see progression every day. And then I want to see progression against the Titans and progression against the Colts. That's all I want to see. I want to see us have the answer at quarterback for the future. And I want us to have a solid determination of Kyle Trask is the guy or Kyle Trask is not the guy. Because you screw around and this is going to end up coming and biting you in the ass when you haven't figured it out and Tom Brady retires. Now, I'm not saying Tom Brady's going to retire this season, obviously. I know that's a very weird statement that fans are making. Tom Brady's not going to retire before the season. Like that doesn't make any sort of sense. Like that to me, like that I'm confused about that one. But Kyle Trask looked good. End of story. I enjoy what I saw from Kyle Trask. Admittedly, I have low expectations. And maybe that's where the issue is. Maybe you guys have these like ridiculously high aspirations, but I'm telling you, if you take the rose-colored glasses off and you look at what he had at how he played well, but we have to be realistic is that it's still the preseason game. Period. It's still preseason, but we need to find out if he is our quarterback. If he continues to progress based off of this building block that we saw on Saturday night, I'm okay with that. And I think we may have our quarterback for the future. But if you're sitting there after Saturday night going, "Yep, he's the guy," newsflash for you, you don't know that. There's no way for you to know that. You have to remember, he's still QB3. He is still the third string quarterback on this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. He still has not beat out Blaine Gabbert. You have to remember that. How about we take a first step and we beat out Blaine Gabbert, and when we win the backup quarterback role? How about we do that first? And then we start talking about possibly starting after Tom Brady. We've got to relax. Like he didn't win Super Bowl MVP on Saturday night. He passed for 258 yards and a touchdown in a preseason game. Period. He looked good. Let's move on. Let's progress forward. Let's build on the good performance and progress forward. I've never seen so many people enamored with the third string quarterback before in my life. And I grew up a fan of a pretty shitty football team in Detroit. To me, it's just crazy. It's crazy talk. Other standouts for me, of course, you're going to start with Tyler Johnson. Tyler Johnson has 6 receptions for 73 yards. What I find very intriguing, and it's still that good bad problem for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is that they have too much talent at wide receiver. I have no idea who's actually going to make it outside of the 4 that we're expecting to make it. I had to count here. Yeah. Outside of Evans, Godwin, Julio, and Russell Gage, not really sure who's going to round out the team. Assuming that they're going to bring out 6. You never know. But Tyler Johnson definitely made a very solid case based on his performance. Unfortunately, he was the one that dropped it, but I mean, he caught 6 of 7. for 73 yards. Tyler Johnson understood the assignment heading into Saturday night's game. He understood that, hey, there's likely 2 spots available, and I've got to figure it out. And pretty positive that the coaching staff really wants Jalen Darden on the 53-man roster, which kind of only leaves 1 spot left for a ridiculous person. Like you've got to you have to you have to understand that there's going to be an odd man out. It could be Scotty Miller. It could be fan favorite Scotty Miller. It could be Tyler Johnson, who just put up a good preseason game. It could be Cyril Grayson, Vincent Smith. There's just, it's very, to me, it's a strange dynamic because I've never seen any other team, and I've covered the NFL for over 10 years now, and I've never seen a wide receiving room that is so in depth. And that's just crazy to have that. It's like an embarrassment of riches at the wide receiver room. Shout out to my buddy Brandon Gunn. So yeah, seeing what is going to happen with who makes the wide receiving team in the 50-man and the 53-man roster is going to be it's going to be kind of crazy. Shout out to everybody that's in the chat today. We got James, Gene, we got the Loose Cannon Leprechaun. What's going on, guys? Across multiple platforms here, even, which is, it's crazy. I got Tony on Twitter. We got people on Facebook. We're all over here. Look, here's another standout for me was Anthony Nelson. He had 2 tackles for a loss, a sack, QB hit. And Anthony Nelson also understood the assignment. He understood, like, hey, first preseason game, I think when the Buccaneers announced like 68,000 or something in attendance, Greg Auman and Joey Knight are now fighting on Twitter over it. You know, everybody's in midseason form apparently in Tampa Bay media right now. But Anthony Nelson looked very solid as well. He was creating havoc. You know, it's in a position where people were kind of saying that they are very where they're shallow or they're thin. I think that we're looking at players that are taking that with a chip on their shoulder, kind of like we do at Channelside Sports. You got the chip on your shoulder, and then you perform well, and then you stick it to the competition. Devin Tompkins. I know that not many people are talking about Devin Tompkins. And I'm going to say something right here that should possibly, I guess, be featured on a Hot Take Friday, but it's Overreaction Monday. Devin Tompkins had 1 punt return for 5 yards, but it was such a pretty 5-yard punt return. You know, this is this for me is where it's like those little things that I notice. I know everybody notices things that are different. That's why I appreciate everybody that's chiming in as we chop it up here and kind of dissect and talk about the first preseason game here. I can't wait to see Devin Tompkins return more punts. He looked and take this kind of with a grain of salt, people. Don't take it like completely at face value. Devin Tompkins' 5-yard run looked very Barry Sanders-esque. And what I mean by that is, how many times did we see Barry Sanders rush for like -4 yards? And you sat there and you go, holy crap, like this was such a good looking run. Like, how did he lose yardage? You get 2 decent blocks to start that punt return, and the speed and elusiveness that Devin Tompkins displayed just on that 5-yard return was very intriguing to me. I liked what I saw from him. I think that he was He was solid in the return game. Receiving it, not so much. But he also wasn't utilized. James in the chat just says, like Scotty Miller was wide open on the touchdown that Blaine Gabbert threw. You win some and you lose some. Unfortunately, these are the battles that you definitely want to be on the winning end of. But if you're not being targeted and you're not being featured, there's not really much that you can do from your end other than, hey, take a look at me next time. Faithful Draw said. I mean, Gene, tell me I'm not correct though. Go back and I'll post it on the Channelside Twitter. Devin Tompkins 5-yard return, and we'll look and we'll look at it. Yeah, Grieger looked good as well. There were a lot of positives that came out from the game. Zion McCollum unfortunately got absolutely burnt toasted in the end zone for a touchdown. But these are things that you look forward to work on. Right? This is where we're heading north. We already know what we're going to get from our starters. That's why pretty much not a single starter played on Saturday night, because we already know what we're going to get from them. And hell, the starters have essentially already played against the Dolphins twice in the previous week anyway with the joint practice. So my concern was how bad the offensive line struggled. We're looking at Aaron Stinney, who's going to be a starter. We're looking at Robert Haynes, who's going to be a starter. We're looking at a lot of guys who are going to be starters. Luke Gadecki is going to be in rotation. He struggled as well. We're looking at an offensive line. And like I said, it's preseason. I get it. This is the same kind of thing where I say pump the brakes on Kyle Trask having the performance of a lifetime and, giving him an Academy Award. But they are largely part of the reason why Kyle Trask was hurried. I mean, they were the exact reason Kyle Trask was hurried 14 times. These are the guys that gave it up. So you've got to be able to make sure that, like, hey, like we're protecting our quarterback, especially when you're talking about guys that are going to be in starting roles this season. That's a scary situation. That's something that you don't want to be involved in. That's where you have to that's where we've got to tighten up. I fully expect Todd Bowles. I fully expect the entire coaching staff to focus on shoring up that offensive line in practice this week, because that's not a situation you want to be in. That's a scary situation. Kyle Trask, we'll touch on that real quick again. He looks good for what he did. And there's nothing else that you can really say about Kyle Trask, is that he looked good for what he did. Build on the performance, and let's see how he takes it in practice this week and how he finishes the week in Tennessee on Saturday. Another thing that I noticed at Game Speed, and also shout out to our buddy Port Richie Lou, who said this on Twitter as he noticed it as well, is Rachaad White looks slow when he's running the ball. And he's right. It's not something that we saw at Arizona State from Rachaad White. Is he was kind of a back that when you would hand off the ball, he'd go. It reminded me a lot of like those long strided hesitation runs of Le'Veon Bell behind the offensive line, namely in Pittsburgh, when he would try to dissect what's going on and kind of hesitate before he made that first cut. So I'm wondering if that is something that we're going to see, because we haven't seen that really in training camp. So I'm wondering if we're going to see that kind of going forward with Rachaad White, if that's something that he's going to try and like implement into his game, or that was just, something that happened to be. That to me, that's something that I'm interested to see if that carries over into Tennessee. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but here's the thing is, the run blocking was a hell of a lot better than the pass blocking on Saturday night. For a team that's going to be very pass heavy, we've got to figure that out. Like I said, I know that Shaq Mason didn't play, Tristan Wirfs didn't play, Donovan Smith didn't play, but Robert Hainsey played, and he's going to be the starting center at this time. I still say, I don't care if it's JC Treader. I don't care who it is. I already know the injury prognosis for Ryan Jensen. And if you know the same people that I know, you might already know this as well. It doesn't matter if Ryan Jensen is out for 2 weeks or if Ryan Jensen is out for 16 weeks. What we saw last week when Robert Hainsey cramped up and everybody freaked out, what that said to me is, oh, hey, by the way, this is the only guy who's ever played an NFL snap at center. We need to sign somebody else. I don't care who the hell it is. We need to sign somebody else at center because we need the depth. If Robert Hainsey went down, and we're talking about, I'm just going to stick with JC Treader, and we're talking about JC Treader, right? Robert Hainsey went down. Oh no, here he is. There's JC Treader there. Robert Hainsey went down with a let's say it was a hamstring, because that's what we all assumed. We all assumed that he tweaked a hamstring because, I mean, what's a Buccaneers preseason or regular season without hamstring tweaks? But we need the depth, because if somebody goes down, we're going to be in a hell of a lot of trouble. And this is where I assume Jason Light's already on the phone. I assume he's been on the phone the moment Robert Hainsey hit the ground. He was already on speed dial with somebody. He was already making phone calls, calling agents, calling whomever. But you definitely need to make sure that you're sure in this lineup in terms of blocking for Tom Brady's an old man. It doesn't matter how healthy he is. It doesn't matter if he's drinking kale shakes. It doesn't matter what he's doing. Tom Brady is still a 45-year-old man. He is was never very quick to begin with, and he is less quick than he was when he was a young man. So a Tom Brady scramble, probably not going to happen. Tom Brady being elusive in the backfield, not going to happen. He's not Ben Roethlisberger, where it takes 2 guys to bring him down. So you got to shore up that offensive line in terms of pass blocking and get some depth at center, guys. Please get some depth at center. Thank you for everybody that's tuning in this morning to Channelside in the Morning, live on the Channelside Sports Network. Hopefully everybody's enjoying the chat today. I appreciate all you guys are all chopping it up in the chat, and it's awesome. It's great to see. So I definitely appreciate that. Hopefully you're enjoying the conversation with me, the talking points with each other. Like that's what we're doing here at Channelside Sports. That's why we are the fastest growing, the most engaging sports brand in all of Tampa, with the numbers to back up the claims. That's why we're doing what we do. So definitely appreciate everybody tuning in and chopping it up with each other. Yeah, I don't know what's going to go on with this Buccaneers roster, man. This Buccaneers roster is they've got the wide receiver is somebody's going to get cut. I said this last week. I think that Scotty Miller is going to get traded. I really do. I think that Scotty Miller is going to be the odd man out. I've got the receipts, Charles. We got the legendary Charles Belay in the chat today. There's so many problems at wide receiver in terms of depth that you go, okay, well, you know Mike Evans is good for a hamstring tweak in the season. Hopefully he got it out of the way by tweaking it in the preseason. Chris Godwin, look, even though he's cleared, we still have to make sure that Chris Godwin is fully healthy and fully mobile. He's coming off an ACL, a very bad ACL injury. You can't force him. You can't force him into play too early. I don't think he even sees a snap in preseason. Maybe in the third game, just get him out there to run a couple routes at game speed, see how it feels at the beginning of the game. Don't even target him. Right? Have him out there, have him do a couple double moves, have him run a post, like have him run some slant routes, something that's going to tax the knee a little bit at game speed, but not put him in jeopardy by passing him the ball, right? We don't want that because we don't want to put him at risk in preseason. But you've got to see how his knee reacts to game speed cuts. But I think Scotty Miller is going to be, I think he might be traded. I think we're looking at a Scotty Miller that might get traded solely for the fact that he's going to give them the most in return. Unless Tyler Johnson shows out again in games 2 and game 3, everybody remembers Scotty Miller's catch in Green Bay. And we know that Scotty Miller is more than a burner. We know that he can actually play. Trade Scotty Miller for a center, maybe. I think there's some decent free agent centers that are out there, though. We've got almost $9 million in cap space. You could make some things happen. It just depends on if they want. I don't want to say they don't value the center, right? The center is obviously outside of the blind side. The center is the most important piece of that offensive line. So you've got to make some sort of move. And maybe, like I said, maybe Tyler Johnson, maybe Scotty Miller and Tyler Johnson get packaged up, and they can get a solid center. And I'm not saying Robert Hainsey's not the guy. I'm just saying I don't care who it is. You got to get somebody else. Let's say Ryan Jensen's out for 5 weeks. He's out for the first 5 games. I think it's longer, but let's say Ryan Jensen's out for the first 5 games. Let's say Robert Hainsey tweaks a hamstring game 1 against Dallas. We're going to run around with our hair on fire at that point because you've got nobody else. Shaq Mason's been in the league for how many years? He's played 0 snaps at center. Tristan Wirfs, 0 snaps at center. And all of these guys, by the way, have played 0 snaps at center in college as well. Everybody that's on that offensive line. So this to me is where you've got to make sure, and maybe you package up some of your wide receivers, because you can't tell me that there is not a GM sitting right now looking on paper, looking at the Buccaneers wide receiving room and going, damn, I'm jealous. You can't tell me that. You can't tell me that there's not a GM that's doing that. It is very surreal to see Julio Jones in a Tampa Bay Buccaneers jersey. And I can't wait to see Julio Jones catching passes from Tom Brady this season. I said it on Friday, man. I'm telling you right now, if Julio Jones stays healthy, the Bucs are going to have three wide receivers going over 1,000 yards. Said it on Friday, and I'm sticking to it. The Buccaneers will be the first team since 2008, since the Cardinals did it in 2008, to have three wide receivers go over 1,000 yards. An 80% healthy Julio Jones is better than 100% healthy Steve Breston. I rest my case. So yeah, I'm curious just to see what is going to happen with the wide receivers and how they're going to shore up the center position. If Julio stays healthy, Bucs win the Super Bowl. I think the Bucs win the Super Bowl even without a healthy Julio Jones. I think the Bucs are. Look, if you look at any of the sports books, Vegas always knows something that we don't know. You got to remember that. Vegas always knows something ahead of time. They always know things that we don't know because there's way too much money. There's way too much money in sports gambling, which is also why Calvin Ridley is suspended for $1,200 in gambling or whatever the hell. It was a stupidly low amount of money for a guy that makes that much money to get suspended for such a long time, but it could be Russell Gage over Julio. I really strongly believe that Tom Brady is going to milk Julio Jones. I think Tom Brady is going to force feed Julio Jones, much like he did Antonio Brown and Rob Gronkowski, who, by the way, obviously are both not here any longer. So I think there was, between the two of them, there were 14 targets per game that are essentially opened up, right? And I think that Julio Jones sees a large part of those. And that's assuming that Tom Brady is going to pass for 719 yards or attempts again. I don't know if we'll see that many dropbacks, but all I know is that Rob Gronkowski, especially at the end of the season, was force fed so he could get that incentive bonus. And Antonio Brown, while he was there, was force fed. And that largely could be in part to Tom Brady knowing that Antonio Brown was going to go bananas if he didn't get the ball. That's realistically, as I'm thinking on the fly here, that very well could have been the thing with Antonio Brown is I got to force feed this guy the ball. Otherwise, he's a freaking time bomb that's going to crack and he's going to tick. And holy shit, guys, we're going to be in trouble. As we're moving forward here, we're moving along. We're going to jump on the Rays. Another thing I wanted to see was is Brait the T. I don't know if I don't know. I don't know if Brait is going to be the guy or if Rudolph is going to be the guy. I think that Rudolph is going to be the guy, James. I think that we're going to see Kyle Rudolph emerge as the guy just because he's more athletic than Cameron Brait. And I think I do think that Cade Otton is going to be the biggest red zone threat. The chemistry that he's had with Tom Brady all training camp, especially in the red zone and in goal line formations, is ridiculous. And we're going to see a lot of that, I believe, in the regular season. Drew Rasmussen. God damn you, Jorge Mateo. Drew Rasmussen almost had a perfect game. No hitter through 8. Jorge Mateo with a leadoff double in the 9th. Man, that would have been nice. That would have been fantastic to see Drew Rasmussen have that. Unfortunately, the baseball gods had other things in mind. Here's the thing. Here's the thing about the performance that Drew Rasmussen had. He only had 7 strikeouts. So what that means, and this is, of course, if you didn't watch the game, he only had 7 strikeouts. It was a total team effort on defense. And that's what you want to see. This is what we've been asking for all freaking season from this Tampa Bay Rays team, is to play with consistency, get everybody on the same page. And you saw what happened. The defense rallied around Drew Rasmussen. We keep talking about how great Drew Rasmussen played, and we're not taking anything away from him, but man, that was a total team effort on defense. Props to the Rays for getting it done. Here's the fun part. Here's the fun part about that 4-1 victory yesterday is now the Rays are only 1 game behind the Blue Jays. They're a half game behind the Mariners in the second wildcard spot, but they're only 1 game behind the Blue Jays in both second place in the AL East and for that first wildcard spot. The wildcard, look, there was a time where the wild card was a little tighter, and this was not too long ago. Just last week, there were 6 teams within 3 games of each other. The White Sox and Twins are 2 games back. The Orioles are a game and a half back from the Rays. The Mariners are a game up, and the Blue Jays are a game up. Now the Rays hold the tiebreaker over the Mariners and over the Orioles. I still think they hold it over the Blue Jays. I could be incorrect. But here's the thing. You took 2 out of 3. You took 2 out of 3 from the Orioles. It's exactly what we want. I gave the Rays their 2-week notice last week, heading into obviously these upcoming 2 weeks. I gave the Rays their 2 weeks. And you got to remember, it wasn't their 2-week notice to get fired or terminated. It was their 2-week notice of this is the most important 2-week stretch you're going to have for the entire season. I hope that the nasty 3-run homer that Randy Arozarena hit yesterday, I hope the performance from Drew Rasmussen, I hope all of that carries over and the momentum continues because, oh, hey, by the way, they play against the Yankees tonight in the Bronx at 7:05. The Yankees have not looked that great. They're 11-19 over their last 30 games. They're what, 2-8, 3-7, something like that over the last 10. Not good. This is the perfect time to play the Yankees because now you've got momentum on your side. If you're the Rays, you've won 2 in a row, and you've won that second game in a big way. A lot of power and a lot of emphasis on that last win because A, it's a division opponent. B, you almost had a perfect game. And C, the crowd was everything was in your favor yesterday. And you've got to use that momentum, especially when you're going into the Yankees, who are kind of reeling at this point. This is exactly where you want them to be. What I find interesting is we've talked about the Rays and their inconsistencies all season. And we've talked about how they've looked like an average team all season. If I told you the Rays were 15-15 in their last 30 games, would you believe me? Because they are. They're exactly where you would expect them to be. They've played average baseball all season, but they've played average enough to keep them in the playoff hunt. And that is the thing where, as much flack as we've given Kevin Cash, as much flack as we've given Stu Sternberg, who I'm not giving a full pass to, I'll give a pass to Kevin Cash. Kevin Cash doesn't make the determination if the Rays are going to do anything at the trade deadline. Sure, he may have some input, but he doesn't pull the trigger on that. That's not his call to make. Kevin Cash has done a great job with guys that were not largely prepared to play at the major league level and kept this team scratching and clawing to being a half game out of the wild card and in a position where they want to be, as we've got Manuel Margot coming back, as we've got Wander Franco coming back. Oh, also, by the way, Shane Baz and Tyler Glasnow are not ruled out for the remainder of the season, and they could come back. This is where you want to see the Yankees. You win this series against the Yankees, you've now won your last 2 series. I don't care if you go 2-1 against the Yankees, that's fine. A sweep would be beautiful, but let's be real. You play the Yankees, you win this series, your next 11 games, 8 for sure. After the Yankees, you've got a 4-game series against the Royals, all winnable. And then you've got a 4-game series against the Angels, all winnable. You should win these. You should be able to win the way the Yankees are playing currently. You should be able to win these next 3 series. The Angels and the Royals are the only 2 teams under 500 currently that you play for the remainder of the season. The Red Sox, I think, are 2 games under 500 currently right now, or 2 games above. But they're 2 games under. I apologize. But this is where you need to capitalize on this stretch right here. That's why I said this stretch of games was so damn important for this Rays team. And if they come out ahead, if they come out winning 4 or 5 games more than they've lost, we're going to see a team that will make the postseason. But I believe, and here's if for some reason the Rays have a losing record to the Royals this season, the Rays are 1-2 against the Royals. If for some reason you skid against the Yankees, Royals, Angels, and Red Sox, I think that's why I said this 2 weeks is so important. I think that the Rays are going to end up missing the playoffs because it's going to be too little, too late to get to. They're going to get healthy too late in the season. And then you're at a point where you say, okay, do we really want to jeopardize Shane Baz, who has had a lot of injuries this season? Do we want to jeopardize Wander Franco, who we just signed to this insane contract, the second largest contract we've ever done? Do we want to have Wander Franco, who has been very injury prone this season and is supposed to be the franchise and the future of this franchise? Do we want to risk putting him back out there? Because you're going to wind up and you're going to be in trouble. You're going to be in trouble if he comes back and he gets injured and it's a long-term injury or something that could be a nagging injury for the next season or the next couple of seasons, right? Like you've got to make sure that we're not jeopardizing our guys. That's why these 2 weeks are so damn important. Get past this Yankees series, handle your business in the Bronx, and then you go to Kansas City. You beat the Royals. Handle your business against the Royals. Handle your business against the Angels. You're going where you're going what? 2? No, they're hosting. They're hosting after this Yankee series, they host the next 8 games. Oh, let's get it done. Kevin Cash, get it done. How many wins will it take to get into the playoffs? 9. You know what? It's possible. I think 90 is definitely where that's where we're sitting. We're sitting at 90, and if we're looking at where the Rays are, and you guys know that I do this a lot because I'm a big metrics guy. The Rays are sitting at a 47.1% of making the playoffs right now, which is damn good because you're only a half game behind the Mariners, who you hold the tiebreaker over. And the Mariners are sitting at an 85% chance of the wild card. This might not be updated from yesterday, but I think it is because the Rays are up 6.5% and the Mariners are down 4.2%. So I believe that it is updated. The best that the Rays can finish this year, but here's the issue: the best the Rays that can is 90 and 72. So if 90 wins is what's going to take it, if 90 wins is what it's going to take to make the playoffs, you're talking about a team that is, I mean, they're largely going to have to win, and they haven't even started September. September is going to be brutal. But if you make it through August, and you make it through August kind of in a dominating fashion before all of your guys are starting to get healthy, before you're getting Wander Franco and Manny Margot back, if you can keep a Rosarina hot, if you can keep Kluber looking well, if you can keep all of these other guys, I mean, man, like I'm telling you, they have to finish 30 and 19 to get to 90. It's possible. It's very possible that they do. And the only reason I say it's possible is because you've got winnable games now. And baseball is it's a momentum sport, man. I know it can change depending on, the stuff that the opposing pitcher is throwing at the mound. Some days you have a good day, some days you have a bad day. We're all human. But it's possible because you're getting healthy at the right time. You're getting this positive momentum forward at the right time. I don't know how many times you guys have heard me say this, but all it takes is a trip to the dance. You get to the dance, all bets are off. How many times have we seen the number one team go down in any sport in the playoffs in the first round? It's possible. It happens. It can happen to the best of the best teams. You just got to get there, man. Any given Sunday is a term in football for a reason. You don't really have that in baseball because they play 7 days a week, but you get the parallel drawn between the two. Handle your business over these next 4 series. Win these next 4 series. Give me a sweep over at least one of the Royals or the Angels. At least one of them. Give me a sweep over them. Really propel this team forward. Something I did not put in the show notes, but I do want to talk about, which we'll kind of wrap up the show with this. Was Cowbell Max really told that he's not allowed to bring the cowbell to the Trop next season? I hope that this is not I hope that's not real. But I don't see any reason for Cowbell Max to lie about him being told that security said you're not allowed to bring the cowbell, which I don't understand. And This is, I think, where a lot of people take issue with the management of the Rays, not the play, not the performance on the field, but the management itself. We look at teams like the Tampa Bay Lightning. They've embraced the community. They've got an electric fan base, no pun intended. And we look at a fan base that is not a fan, not necessarily fans of all of the other local Tampa teams. We're not looking at a fan base with the Lightning that are like, yeah, I'm a Bucks fan and I'm a Rays fan. A large part of the Lightning fan base aren't from here, but they're Lightning fans because the fan base, the management, and the community and the culture that they have created is so dynamic that you want to be a part of it. If we're alienating our best fans as the Tampa Bay Rays, what is that saying to our fan base if we're alienating our fans? And this is an if because, like I said, I don't know the fact. I've not talked to Max directly. I've only heard this through other people. But if we're alienating the fan base, what are we doing? What are we saying? We talk about, oh yeah, it's hard to get to the field. Well, yeah, it's hard to get to the Trop for a lot of us. Mileage wise, I've told you this before, mileage wise from my home, it is 1 mile further than Raymond James Stadium is from my home here in Riverview. And it takes me 2 times as long to get to Trop as it does to Raymond James Stadium. We talk about the Trop is always empty. It's hard to get to. We already know that. But now we're going to alienate the people that do go? Like, come on, guys. What are we doing here? That to me is frustrating. And that, I think, is largely in part of why we still don't have any sort of announcement on where the stadium was going to be. Because if you remember, the mayor of St. Pete said we were going to get one in August. We are now officially mid-August, and we've got no announcement. There's still been no announcement. I don't think Stu cares. And yeah, the Howard Franklin, I think, is actually it's closed. It's closed right now too. I might just be only for Tuesday or only for tomorrow for a repair. But yeah, the Howard Franklin, while it's a nightmare, it's going to be non-existent for the next day or so. But I don't know if this is going to cause friction between Channelside Sports and the Tampa Bay Rays. It probably will. Knowing what I know about the history of the Tampa Bay Rays and the you must talk good about us. We're fans, man. I'm not a professional reporter. I was once a professional reporter. I am not. I'm not a professional reporter. Channelside Sports was built by fans for fans to be a voice of the fans, to represent the good, bad, and indifferent of our beautiful community here in Tampa and our fan base. So I'm going to call them like I see them, man. And if there's some sort of backlash, then there's going to be some sort of backlash. Stu Sternberg needs to sell the Tampa Bay Rays to somebody who gives a crap about our community, about our fan base, and about the goddamn team in general, and stop looking at it going, well, we're losing money. Give it to somebody that knows how to generate money and put butts in seats. That's what you need to do. You need to call up and look, I know we talk about calling up Jeff Finnick all the time, but call up somebody that really, really wants to look at this Rays team as more than a financial write-off, as a tax write-off for your business, and give it to and sell it to somebody that is going to take this team to the next level and not alienate the fan base if everything that we heard yesterday about Cowbell Max is true. And finish it off that way and take care of your business that way. and say goodbye. Give it to somebody that's local, right? I still strongly believe that a large reason why the Tampa Bay Rays have not made the move to Tampa is because they don't want to be associated with the good work in the community that the Bucks do and the good work in the community that the Lightning do, because they're not like that in the community. That's not saying that the players don't want to be. That's not saying that Kevin Cash doesn't want to be. That's saying that is a top-down directive of, we're going to stay over here. We're going to stay across the bridge. We're going to stay in our own lane. And we'll do some things in St. Pete, but we're not going to really do much in Tampa. That's what that tells me. And hearing what I heard yesterday about the fan base should piss you off, just like it pisses me off. But nonetheless, the Rays need to handle business and still make the playoffs, because we're still fans of the team. You don't have to be fans of the management or the ownership, but we are fans of the team. Let's handle business in the Bronx tonight. Let's keep this momentum going forward. Last I checked, it was still undecided who was on the mound tonight against Garrett Cole. Obviously, we know Garrett Cole's having a fantastic season. He's one of the front runners for the AL Cy Young. Let's go to the Bronx. Let's handle business, and let's keep this momentum going, because September is going to be difficult. Win as much as you possibly can to close out August. Win as much as you possibly can to close out August. 3 against the Yankees, 4 against the Royals, 4 against the Angels, and then 3 against the Red Sox. What is that? 16 games? 6, 8. I can't do math. Come on, guys. 14 games. Win 11 of these 14 games. Make the other teams, make the Blue Jays sweat, make the Mariners sweat, make the Red Sox sweat, and all of the other teams that are closing the gap on you in the AL wildcard, make them all sweat. Let's get this done. Let's close out the season hot. Football season's coming. Hockey season is coming. Tampa Bay is about to be electric once again. And I can't wait to do this all over again with you tomorrow. Thank you to everybody that tuned in today, man. This was probably the most fun show that we've done so far. And I think we're like 64 episodes in of Channelside in the morning, man. Please tag a friend, tell a friend, join the movement. If you want the receipts, man, I'll give you the damn receipts. Channelside Sports is making the most noise, the most engaging. It doesn't matter who you pair us up against. We're making it happen, man. Channelside Sports is the next generation of Tampa sports talk. If you tuned in on YouTube, I appreciate it. Please hit that subscribe button and hit the thumbs up, because that's going to propel us forward in the future for all of our live shows. Obviously, you see on the bottom, we've got Channelside Bets is coming. False Finish, hosted by our very own Gene Thomas and Corey Hayes, will be coming in hopefully sooner rather than later, but we'll see. We've got some other great shows. Deandra Lou's going to have her own show. We should be bringing on a new morning host with me. Man, we've got a lot of positive momentum, just like the Rays have positive momentum. Make sure you search for the Channelside Sports Network on all the social media platforms. Hopefully you enjoyed the conversation today. I know I enjoyed all of it with you guys. We're going to do it all again tomorrow on Tuesday. I am Danny. This is Channelside in the Morning, live from the Channelside Sports Network, and we